So welcome everybody to our Monday Wellness Yoga. And today we're going to be focusing a little bit on the idea of surrender. And I want to talk a little bit more about what that might mean for you as we get into the practice. Initially, can I invite you please to come to a lying down position? You're welcome to keep your knees bent, feet on the floor, if that's more comfortable for your back. And just kind of land. So if you have to do a little wiggling and jiggling, stretching, hugging a knee or two into the chest, whatever you need to do so that you can come and actually land onto your mat this afternoon and settle in. And then once you've landed onto the ground, begin to pay attention to the physical body as it connects to the earth. So you might feel your feet connecting to the floor, parts of your legs connecting to the floor, across your buttocks and your low back and your middle back and your upper back, your right shoulder blade, your left shoulder blade, your arms and your hands. Feeling them all connect to the floor, and especially the back of the head in some way connecting to the floor. So just, if you can, focus your awareness on the connection you make to the earth with your body. And as best as you can, allow yourself to feel that support as you lie on your back with your knees bent and feet on the floor. So here we begin the lesson, if you will, for today. The lesson is not about how to touch your toes or how to stand upside down. The lesson for today in this Wellness Monday class is about surrender. And this can be a really tough lesson. But let's start with this idea of allowing the earth to hold and cradle you. And this is a choice you can make right now. Will you allow this support? And a lot of times I resist it. A lot of times maybe there's physical discomfort, I'm itchy, or there's something hurting or spasming, and laying down isn't comfortable. A lot of times my mind is racing, and there's so many things that I feel that I have to do. Rush, 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 get this done. So sometimes I don't allow myself to receive the support of the earth. So as best as you can today, despite all those perhaps challenges like that, can you receive the support of the earth? And this is how we set our class up for today. There are so many ways that the universe can support you and guide you and help you achieve happiness and contentment and peace, but we get in our own way. And sometimes it's referred to as the ego, your personality type. But basically, it's habits that we have formed throughout our lifetimes. They might be habits that we've inherited from our culture, from our ancestors. There's intriguing ideas that maybe these are habits that have come down to us from previous lifetimes. But regardless of how we develop this way of looking at the world, we're holding ourselves back from our own levels of peace and contentment and achievement. I've become very interested in this idea during COVID because so many of our normal habitual distractions have been locked out for us. We can't go out the same way, we can't talk to people the same way, we can't engage in a lot of the activities we used to be able to. And yet here am I still in that same mindset of there's not enough time, I'll never get enough done, it'll never be good enough. And I've become very intrigued with this idea of standing in my own way. So this is what I wanted to share with you on Wellness Monday, is I wonder if our class today could begin a dialogue. Certainly not going to solve problems just in one class, but could it begin a dialogue, you, yourself, and you, to really start asking that question. What am I doing that holds me back from my peace, from my contentment, from my achievement? And you may be surprised at what you discover. I know I've been asking that question and been pretty surprised at some of the answers. So we'll start with this, lying down on your back after, I'm sure, what was a busy day. Can you receive the support of the earth? So earth is always there. It's always ready to hold you for 5 minutes, for 5 hours, for 50 hours. The earth will hold you if you need it to. Gravity will help shape your postures if you allow it to. But are you allowing that? Can you allow that right now? Or is your mind racing, or is your body tense? And whatever you discover, could we just really listen instead of judging it or wishing for something different? If you really want to learn from conversation, if you're always talking over top of the other person or telling them what they should be saying, then you're really not going to get anything out of it. I've tried to have conversations with people like that. It's not fun. So if you really want to learn, listen and allow. Open up your senses so that you can feel this moment as best as you can. Sometimes it's tough. If you've been able to allow the earth to hold you for these few minutes, can you open into this practice a bit more completely now by welcoming the breath into the body? We literally hold back our breath all the time. Sometimes we're shocked. Sometimes we just forget to breathe because we're really involved mentally in something like working on a computer. There can be a lot of reasons why we hold back our breath. You don't have to right now. So are you able to receive the support of the earth, trust that, and then welcome your breath into this moment, into your practice now? We're going to go through these steps with each one of our postures today. So we're going to take a little extra time with our postures once we get warmed up in that, so that we can really deepen this conversation. And I'm really so happy that you joined me for this conversation this afternoon, because I think this is really the essence of our yoga practice right now. As you're welcoming your breath and becoming more conscious of your breathing, maybe slowly and leisurely deepen and broaden and really kind of open to the breath so that your breath becomes quite regular, a practice in itself. Let's take 3 of the deepest, longest breaths that you can comfortably find in this moment. And then we're going to start some really simple movement married with breath. As you inhale now, please take your arms, lift them up, and maybe stretch them behind your head. Exhale, hug your right knee in towards your chest. Inhale, come back to the position of feet on the floor, arms outstretched. Exhale, hug your left knee in towards your chest. And repeat that a couple more times. You don't have to hug your knee really tight. You don't have to stretch your arms all the way behind you if your shoulders are still tight from whatever you did today. After you've hugged the left knee this last time, come back to the original position. Open your feet a little further apart from each other. Your feet might be standing even outside the edges of your mat. Take your arms out from your body a little bit and see if it's possible to create a goalpost shape with your arms, or cactus arms, we call them sometimes. The backs of your hands don't touch all the way to the floor. Don't worry about it. Inhale, knees in the center position, arms in goalpost. Exhale, turn your knees to the other side and turn your hands under, so now your palms are down on the floor beside you. Inhale, come back to cactus arms, lift your knees in the other direction. Exhale, point your arms down and knees go to the second side. So the arms are moving in the shoulder sockets and the knees are moving. So your feet are on the floor, they're quite wide apart from each other, and you're pointing the knees slowly and leisurely from side to side. So hopefully we'll open up the shoulder joints a bit, open up the knee joint, or sorry, the hip joints a little bit, get us ready for some standing poses. The next time you've pointed your knees to the second side and your palms have pointed down, come to the original position, sometimes we call it constructed rest, and just visit with the physical reality of your world in this moment. So again, going through the legs and the back and the arms and the head, and noticing if you're able to receive the support of the earth and welcome the breath into your body. When you're ready, can I invite you please to roll over to your side and come to table pose. And I'll join you in table pose. Know that the chair is always here as an option if you don't wish to weight bear on your knees. But if it's okay to be on hands and knees, that's where we'll head. Set yourself up in a very conscientious table pose, whether you're using the chair or you've elected to be down closer to the ground. Have your hips directly over your knees and shoulders directly over the wrists. Inhale, elongate the spine. Exhale, gather the belly muscles in and arch out like a cat. So we're just moving with that conscientious breath that we set up right at the beginning. And the intention of this movement is just to warm up the spine a little bit. So it doesn't have to be an extreme flexion or extension. And it's a chance for us again to kind of really arrive in the body and welcome the breath. Okay. And then I can turn sideways so I can see you a little bit better. You're fine the way you are. Let's take one leg and stretch it out to the side. Now, if you're one of my friends that finds weight bearing on the knee uncomfortable, just come to a standing position and follow along exactly with what we're doing, but from a standing position. This is a kind of a dynamic version of gate pose. Inhale, lengthen up one side of the body, and exhale, lean out in a nice arc to the side. Move back and forth with your breath. So the shin that's on the floor, or this leg, press it down so it's connected to the earth. Receive the support from the earth. And then welcome the breath into the body from here. If your arm's getting tired or if lifting your arm up doesn't work, know that you can always leave the hand on the hip, because we're really intending to laterally stretch the spine. So where the arm is really not that important. Let's switch sides now. Try to keep this hip directly over top of the knee and ankle if you're standing. And as we stay really connected to the movement, connected to your breath, notice that each side feels a little bit different. That your experience on the right side is different than your experience on the left side. That's your body trying to teach you something. Let's do 2 more breaths. Remember, if your arm is getting tired or if it's uncomfortable to hold it up that long, this movement works just as well. And then when you're ready, we'll come to a comfortable seat. So if you're using the floor, if being on the floor is a comfortable place for you, know that you might want to fold the blanket a few times to create a lift. We're going to come into some gentle rotations of the spine, and it's very important that we honor how gravity, how the earth supports our body. And if we don't have enough lift in the hips, if the hip joints aren't higher than the knee joints, then what will happen is gravity will be working with your body in a way that's not entirely safe for your spine. So if we want the earth to support us, let's understand the nature of the support that's being offered and work with that. So if you can't sit this way and keep your spine safe, that's where your chair will come in handy. Sit upright in a chair and follow along doing exactly the same thing with your upper body. When you're ready, inhale, elongate the spine, sit up as tall as you can. Exhale, begin to firm the belly muscles before you twist. Inhale, relax the belly muscles, sit up tall. Exhale, gather the belly muscles in, and then twist to the other side. So we'll move from side to side slowly with the breath. Trying to maintain a long spine and not twist too deep. These are just dynamic movements to kind of warm our spine up a little bit, warm the body up a little bit. So we're ready to meditate in our postures a bit more. Okay, that's enough. 3 times to each side is fine for me. Let's come up to mountain pose. And clear off the mat. And you might want to have a block handy. I'm not overly married to that idea, but if that's the way you find triangle pose and side angle pose most comfortable, you might want to have blocks handy. Okay, so let's take our first mountain pose. We'll come back to this and spend a little bit more time here, but let's turn this into something dynamic just to continue the freeing of energy into the system. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this a little bit better. You're fine right where you are. So for mountain pose, feet a few inches apart, whatever seems to make sense for your body. Inhale, lift the arms and come into a gentle chair. Exhale, forward fold to the degree that's comfortable. Inhale, come halfway up, lengthen the spine. And exhale, take that length and fold it a bit more deeply over your legs. Inhale, come to chair. And exhale, back to hands at the heart in mountain pose. Let's go through that again, pace of your own breath. Inhale, gentle chair pose. Exhale, forward fold, knees stay soft. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, take that length, fold it a little bit more deeply to the earth. Inhale, chair pose. And exhale, hands to the heart. Last time, using the breath that you were practicing when you were laying down. So the breath is really long and deep and patient. And then let's spend a little bit of time now in our mountain pose. So wiggle and jiggle your feet so they spread a little bit more to connect with the earth a bit more deeply. Notice the places in the soles of your feet and toes that touch the ground, and then there'll be places that don't touch the ground. So kind of familiarize yourself with the valleys and mountains of your feet. Can you imagine your feet almost as suction cups, gathering the energy, the creative, formative energy of the earth, and kind of bringing that up, slurping it up the legs, energizing the knees and the hips, helping your whole back, the whole spine, find angles that are more comfortable. Let your arms be heavy at your sides. Relax your fingertips. Release your shoulder blades towards the earth. Animate the middle part of your body simply by breathing. And float the tips of your ears up towards the sun. See if you can stand in a way that's a little bit effortless, almost bouncy from the ground. And be aware of your whole physical body in mountain pose. Can you feel the pull of gravity on the body? But can you also simultaneously feel the buoyancy of the breath? Exists somewhere in the perfect balance point between. So you're surrendering to gravity, and yet you're energized by it. This is kind of that place we want to make our decisions, where we want to take our actions from, where we're poised between our power, the power of our personalities and egos, but also aligned with that natural flow of energy. Let's explore this a little bit more in a forward fold. So if you feel like you need to take your feet a little further apart to be comfortable in forward fold for a little bit, if you'd like to have your head on the seat of a chair instead of towards the ground, you want blocks under your hands, all of those things are good options. I'm going to come to the side just to illustrate. I want to keep the knees soft as I do this, inch from the hips, and take that length that we were working on in the last little vinyasa right into the forward fold. It would be wonderful if you had your hands connected to something, so not necessarily swinging in midair. And if that means using props, please do. Now, this is a posture that is often talked about in yoga as one of surrender, but a lot of us don't find forward folds that easy. So let's visit with your body. What is your body telling you? Try to let go of all the advice you've received from us well-meaning yoga teachers over the years and all those other people who've told you what your body should do. See if you can explore a tiny bit of micro movement here to find something that's just a little bit more natural, a little bit more comfortable for you. So I wonder if that's bending your knees a little bit more. I wonder if it's using a prop under your hands. I wonder if it's bringing your chest closer to your knees. I wonder if it's relaxing your jaw. So we carry this habitual tension with us into even our postures that are supposed to help us relax, like forward folds. Where is your tension? Until you find it, it's going to be hard for us to have a conversation with it. If you do find resistance, if you do find efforting in your forward fold and a little bit of adjustment isn't easing that, what can you learn from that? What sorts of ideas are coming into your mind? Thoughts, memories, images, anything? Can you just be open to it? Can you allow it? Let's just maybe try 2 or 3 more breaths here. Okay. And then when you're ready, can you please inhale into half lift where we did before? So the spine is extended. Stay here for the exhale, really gathering the belly muscles in firmly to the spine, and then inhale all the way back up to your mountain pose. Can you determine if mountain pose has shifted at all for you in your experience? Let's turn sideways on the mat. Take the feet fairly wide apart. And let's come into our triangle pose, Triphanasana. If you're thinking about using a block, I would have it on the inside of your foot at its highest height. We can talk about the block or not use the block, doesn't really matter. Okay, let's do triangle pose dynamically a few times just to warm up the mechanism, and then we'll decide where we want to hold the posture, and that can vary from day to day, practice to practice. So rotating the whole leg bone, so the toes are now pointing towards the short edge of the mat. Adjusting this back leg, it might move forward, it might roll in a little bit, the whole thigh bone might roll in a little bit in order to create more comfort in the hips and knees of both sides of your body. And when you're ready, let's move in a vinyasa. Inhale, spreading the arms. Exhale, coming into a simple triangle pose. Inhale, taking the top arm, extending it, and exhale, pulling up out of the posture. Keep this knee soft as you inhale and exhale and inhale and exhale. We'll come through that one more time, moving at the pace of your own breath, of course. And watch for really pushing. Are you really pushing? Are you really trying to get to your A game? Can you dial it back just a little bit so that you're feeling a more organic expression? Okay, so now we're in a position we may choose to hold the posture. If your top arm gets tired at any time, tuck it around behind your back. That will work just fine. If you're trying to strain to look up at your top arm, let's start by looking down at our foot. It might just be a nice gift to the neck to kind of look down a little bit for a while. Maybe look forward at the computer if you have to, but not to strain to look up. And then let's visit with our body. Rather than having a picture in our mind of what someone else looks like doing this pose, can you travel inside and feel what things are like inside your body in triangle pose? Remember we talked about feet slurping up the energy of the earth? How are those mountains and valleys under your feet now? Do they feel familiar to you? Do you feel like you can connect to the earth? Are you holding a lot of tension or efforting through the legs, the knees, the hips, the low back? That's really, holding back the flow of that earth energy in your lower body. We are incarnated, we are physical beings, so we need to really honor the support of the earth. So relax through your legs and hips and back. Don't push so hard. And then animate your body with breath. just like you did in mountain pose, just like we did when we were laying on our backs. Can we be here about 3 more breaths, and I'll be quiet so that you can really have that conversation. And when you're ready, you come back up out of triangle pose, and we'll bring our feet into a parallel position and just like pause. When you hold postures, especially if this is not your normal practice and you're holding postures longer than you're familiar with, the cascade of sensations is very rich, isn't it? I find that it's an interesting conversation, compelling sometimes. So isn't it nice to have a place in our world where we can have a real meaty, pithy conversation? So much as, like emojis and things like that nowadays. Now you can really get in there and really think about it. Okay, let's turn the other leg out. We'll do the dynamic vinyasa first, and then we'll move into holding triangle pose. So adjusting the legs, this one could come forward and turn inward a little bit, keeping this knee soft. When you're ready, inhale, open up. Exhale into triangle. Inhale, extend your triangle to the point you're comfortable. And then exhale, come back up. Continue with that 2 more times. There we go. And then when you're ready to hold the posture, we'll come into an accessible triangle pose. Now, that might mean that your hand is resting on a block. If you feel the support of the gravity a little bit more, intensively, if your hand is on a block, that's fine. I just don't want you to reach and really feel as though you really have to touch anything. The pose isn't a triangle pose unless your hand is on the floor. This is about really having that conversation with our physical form. So if you're trying to make a shape that someone has told you at some point, or you've seen a picture at some point that this is Triphanasana, let's let all that go. And let's really feel again, down into the feet, up through the legs, the hips, the low back. How about your shoulders? Are your shoulders singing to you? Or are your shoulders complaining? What can you do? Maybe dropping that top arm. Maybe rolling that top shoulder blade back a little bit. Maybe you like this version of triangle better. It doesn't really matter about the shape on the outside. It really matters about the conversation on the inside. So again, I'll be quiet for a couple breaths. Thank goodness. So you can listen and receive. And when you're ready to leave triangle pose, lift yourself back up, turn the feet into a parallel position, and we'll just press the pause button. So know wherever you are, in this lifetime anyway, when you live on the planet Earth, you will feel the pull of gravity and you will know that the mother is there. And that you will know that if you tune in to the messages that are coming through gravity, for example, through your physical incarnation, you'll be able to align better with what you were meant to do here. It won't feel like such a struggle. The peace and the contentment and the achievement that we're working towards as human beings is more accessible when you slow down and listen. Let's turn that first leg out again. So we're coming into a very similar sort of stance. Know that you can adjust this back leg a little bit, and then bend into this knee until it's centered right over top of the ankle. Please don't take yourself into a super deep, stretched out version of this. Feel as though you can still really receive energy right up into the hips and up the spine. Good. And then when you're ready, we'll inhale, take the arms out, move a little bit again. Exhale, lean forward and swing the arm up. Inhale, come back, stretch the other way. Keep that knee bent. And exhale into side angle pose. Let's take that one or two more times. We inhale into what sometimes called sun warrior. Really warming the spine now. And then the next time we come into side angle pose, we might choose to hold it. This would be my suggestion, to stay right here. If you really want, you can bring that block underneath this bottom hand again. But like I said, I don't want to really strain to get to the end range of my motion. I would really like to be able to stay in my bones and muscles so that I have time to think. The top arm is getting tired. You know, you can always tuck it around behind your back, and your gaze can be straight ahead or down at that front foot, whatever works better for you. So let's go to the same modus operandi that we've used in our other poses so far. Feet first. Can you feel the valleys and mountains of your feet? Even though you're stretched, perhaps right out there in space, can you feel the energy being slurped up by the floor, by your legs, up from the earth, up through the knees and the hips, into the back, into the diaphragm, and into the chest? Where is there tension? What can you do right now? What kind of adjustment can you make right now to ease that tension just a little bit and animate a bit more deeply with your breath? Try not to sink into this arm. Use the strength of your spine to really lengthen out to the side. Don't just shrunk over the front knee. One more breath. And then we can gently release that, come back to parallel feet, and hold this awareness open. So when we hold postures for a few breaths longer, we take ourselves to a whole different realm of awareness. I don't know if you're starting to feel the effects of that or not. Let's turn the other leg, set ourselves up carefully as we have in each of the other standing postures. Let's move a little bit on this side, and then we can consider holding. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Couple more breaths. Taking long, slow, patient breaths. Nowhere to go, really. Nowhere to rush to. And then we might hold, just visiting with the physical form. So there are different lineages in yoga that have talked about, they're more aesthetic, maybe in their focus, renunciation. They want you to get beyond being physical. Physical doesn't matter, it's bad. No. The kind of yoga that I think we're practicing today is about learning from the physical form. It's a blessing we have this incarnation. It's amazing that we have this body. Let's learn from it. Let's use it as our tool to transformation. And we do that by paying attention right now in this moment. Not when you get really good at this posture someday, or when you stand on your head for 10 minutes, but right now. We're going to learn right now from what your body is teaching you in this moment. I'll be quiet for a couple breaths so you can think. Okay. And then let's come back up to parallel feet. And let all that kind of percolate through and bubble up. It's a two-way street. We're earthbound, but we're heaven sent. In our experience, we need to find a blend of that. Okay, so you may want to bring your chair in front of you, so your chair seat is in front of you. Denise, I might suggest that for you or anyone else who is concerned about rotation of the spine. I'm going to use my block in front of me because I think that's going to work fine. I don't have two blocks in my yoga room, but if you have two blocks work really well too, side by side. Let's do a little bit dynamically, and then again, look at holding a posture. Inhale, exhale, hinge from the hip crease, keep the knees soft, come halfway forward. As you inhale, take your hand to your low back and extend the spine. Exhale, gather the belly muscles in and open the heart to one side. Let's do that 2 more times. So on the inhales, I'm thinking about elongating the spine, keeping it as natural as possible. And on the exhales, I'm twisting. I want to make sure that the spine has its neutral curves as I come into the posture and think about holding it for a few breaths. So I want to press equally into both of my feet. Feel the mountains and valleys of the feet. So we have a tendency, I think, to roll onto the inside arches here. So make sure that the ball of the foot right across is connected to the ground, and the outer edges of the heel are still connected to the ground. Elongate the spine. Notice where you're holding stress in your system. Where can you breathe more easily? On your next inhale, come back to center. Remember, we're elongating. Exhale, twist and open the heart to the other side. So we're going to do a couple more breaths dynamically here until you feel like you've got a safe range of motion organized. The hand on the sacrum helps to keep the hips level to the ground. So the twist is happening along the length of the spine. It's not happening in my hips or my low back. When you feel you're ready, we can hold the twist, asking the same sort of questions that we've been asking in many of our postures this afternoon. Where am I efforting overly? Where am I pushing myself? Where am I following someone else's drummer and not following my unique and special path? Each asana, each posture in yoga invites us to listen and find that uniqueness. It's different every day. It's different for every person. Can you take 2 more breaths here? And then inhale, we'll come back to center. Option is to come back up to mountain pose or exhale to a nice forward fold and hold that for a couple breaths. If you're in the forward fold, know that you can have a little bit of bend in your knees. Just make sure your knees are pointed outward. They're not flopping in towards each other. And make sure that your feet are evenly grounded to the earth. Those mountains and valleys are all the way that they should be in your feet today. So whether you're in mountain pose or you're in forward fold, ask the question, am I working really too hard? Where am I getting in my own way? If you're comfortable being on your belly, let's inhale halfway up, elongate the spine. Exhale, walk your hands around to the front of the mat and make your way down onto your belly. If you're not comfortable being on your belly, grab your yoga tie, strap, whatever you've got. Turn your chair around so you've got something to hang on to. You can also be at a wall. And we're going to be doing half bow pose on the ground. I'm going to suggest that you could do this posture. So a lot of the cueing will help lead you here, but you'll be standing. For those of us that are on the ground, take a moment to really relax. For years, I have found these prone extension postures for the spine really difficult. And I've noticed over the decades, if I relax a little bit, I can really find a lot more comfortable extension to the spine. So relax on purpose, whether you're standing in mountain pose at the wall or the chair, or laying on your belly, relax on purpose. Alignment is important before you come into this posture. So if you're standing, find mountain pose. If you're lying on your belly, find mountain pose. So the alignment is the same in this prone position. You want your legs aligned, falling naturally down from your hip joints. You want your pelvis and shoulders aligned, and your head not thrown back. That would be the equivalent of turning your chin up to the ceiling in mountain pose. You want your chin at the proper level to the chest. All right, so let's slide, for those of you that are prone, let's slide your right arm up underneath the chest. You may need to have the yoga strap handy even if you're on the ground. So you want the forearm right underneath the chest, and slowly bend the right knee. Reach back to get a hold of the right ankle or foot. If that doesn't happen comfortably, then you can grab a hold of the yoga strap. I would recommend keeping the right ankle flexed. If you're going to go any deeper into this, just to kind of protect your knee a little bit. So let's stop right here. We've grabbed a hold of the right foot, either with the strap or with our own hand. And we're already starting to feel all kinds of strong sensation, at least I am, from the body. How tempting it is just to get into this posture, get her done, and get the heck out, because it's not easy and it's hard. But let's stay here for a second. We're not all the way into the posture. We're just stretching the front of the thigh, which is a great thing to do. Where are we connected to the earth? Have we received the support of the earth? Where are we resisting? Are we receiving our breath fully? So you can stay here and have this conversation, because isn't it interesting? Only if you find this relatively effortless and you have lots and lots of capacity, start pulling your right foot back a little bit, lifting the chest a little bit more, extending the spine a little bit more. So we're in kind of a half bow pose here. Take a couple deep breaths. Notice the shortcuts that you're used to taking in bow pose. Notice where you can be more authentic yourself. When it's time, slowly release the right foot, come to stand in mountain pose, or lie on your belly in prone mountain pose. And catch up with what's going on. What's the nature of your dialogue in these more demanding poses? All right, let's try the other side. So you might be standing, so I can show what that might look like. From mountain pose, whether it's prone mountain pose or standing mountain pose, bring your left leg into a bent position and grab a hold of the left ankle or foot and flex the ankle. Now, I'd recommend having your right arm underneath you if you're prone to support your chest, or your right hand could be at the wall or hanging onto a chair. Notice where you're feeling the connection to earth and deliberately soften in those places. Even if you can do the full bow pose and you're really, really familiar with that, it's wonderful. Stop here in this kind of like progressive place and say, what am I learning from not doing the full pose? And then if you really want to, you can kick the left foot back, extend the spine a little bit more, and find a few deep breaths. Watch for over-efforting. Surrender into the shape. And when you're ready to release, do so with great care and ease. For my friends that were standing, make your way carefully onto the floor. For my friends who were in prone position, please roll over onto your backs. Bend your knees, stand your feet on the floor. So we're kind of back where we started. Let's just do a little vinyasa. Inhale, stretch your arms and leg out straight. Exhale, little hug, knees to the chest. Inhale, push your back firmly to the floor, extend out through the feet and hands. Exhale, gather together. So the head and shoulders is staying on the ground here. The spine is fully supported by the earth through the whole movement. But you're actually kind of working your spine like maybe an accordion. It's expanding and contracting. And then we can come back to constructive rest. Roll over to your side, press up. I'm going to fold my blanket just once over, so I have a little bit of support underneath my tushy. You might want to fold your blanket more if you find forward folding a little stiff for you. When we come to use the blanket as support, like the blanket is the earth coming up to you. So you want to be able to really fully receive that support. Hook the sitting bones right over the edge of the fold of the blanket so that you really feel you can let your whole spine sink down into the ground. And then bend one knee, drop it out to the side. You might find a block or another pillow or blanket is helpful if you have any stiffness in the side of your body today. Keep this knee a little bit soft. And we're going to do forward fold here, head to knee pose 3 times dynamically. And my suggestion would be then we would hold it again. So inhale, lots of length in the back. Exhale, hinge at the hips, chest moving towards the knee. And then inhale, come back up. And flowing forward on the exhales. So the goal of our pose here today is not to get your hands all the way to your toes or your nose all the way to your knee. The goal of this is to see if we can find a place where we're perfectly balanced between effort and surrender. So forward folding, maybe holding now. Let the shoulders relax, the arms relax, the jaw relax, the tongue relax. The only place you may want to discipline your body a little bit here is to hug the belly muscles in a bit more tightly. If you could create a contraction through the seatbelt area of your belly muscles, you'll notice that without any strain whatsoever, you actually go a micrometer deeper into the posture. So it really supports your spine and your low back too. So think about the low belly to set yourself up for a safer, more engaged experience here. Chin can relax in towards the chest. Eyes could close. This is a nice quiet place to go so you can listen. Notice the conversation your body is trying to have with you. Notice the resistance that the mind introduces. All the reasons why you shouldn't stay here. All the different distractions that can be invented. And then smile to yourself and say, yep, isn't this an interesting conversation? When you're ready, walk your hands closer to your body so you can come upright with support. Bring your knee up, extend your legs. Let's go to staff pose. We'll break here for a few seconds, just to notice what the return to symmetry is like for you. And then coming into the other side. We'll work dynamically for a few breaths and then hold, modifying that so it suits your pace of adjustment better. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, forward fold. Know that this knee can be a little bit bent. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You need more blanket underneath your tushy on this side to be comfortable. Then, of course, you would adjust for that. And then when we come to hold the posture, we're not trying to get our nose all the way to the knee. We're not trying to touch the toes or whatever. What we're really thinking about here is how to find that perfect blend of discipline of the body. Yes, we're trying to get into a good stretch, but also that softness, that willingness, that allowing. And in some ways, we could call it a surrender. Sometimes the word surrender doesn't describe exactly what we're looking for, because we're not totally giving up. We're not handing over all of our control to something outside of ourselves, but we're going into our own power and surrendering to that. So the only thing you might want to really discipline yourself to do is that belly kind of lock, pulling in the low belly muscles, and just notice you go into the stretch more automatically, and then relax on purpose. Invite the breath into your body and be in this moment. Don't be anywhere else. Be right here. And then when you're ready to release the posture, walk your hands up towards your body, lift the knees, straighten the leg, come to staff pose. This is kind of the neutralizer here. And then when you're ready, let's make our way down onto the back for Shavasana. If there's another posture you need to do, another couple postures you need to do so that your body feels like it's gotten into all the nooks and crannies it needed to, then by all means. You may want a blanket underneath your spine, a pillow underneath your legs, whatever you need so that you can feel supported. We're going to be here for a few minutes today. Because we're doing the work that we are, try to be as neutral to the ground as possible. So not a ton of props. That's for another delicious class another time. Okay. So settling in. And adjusting your body so that you can be comfortable for the next few moments. And just like we did at the beginning, we'll start this process by acknowledging the earth beneath you. Noticing the parts of your body that make contact with the earth. And allowing that support. For me, that seems to be one of the greatest challenges, is there is so much support available out there through the universe. And yet I'm too busy to notice, or I don't really take time to really feel it. Maybe a friend calls with a heartfelt message of support, or someone sends a homemade loaf of bread, or I get a contract when I didn't think one was going to come through, and that's just enough to make the bills that month. There's always supply. And yet sometimes I'm got my own head so far up my butt I don't see it. So let's take the time to lie down and feel the earth. You can trust the earth isn't going anywhere, not for our Shavasana time anyway. And receive that support. Soften through the feet, the calf muscles, the hamstring muscles, the butt muscles, the back muscles. Soften the belly, soften the chest. Relax the shoulders and the arms, even the tiniest muscles of your fingers. Soften and relax. Let the weight of your head sink back to the ground. Let your eyelids be heavy. And let all the tiny muscles around your eyes soften. Relax your ears, your scalp, the muscles of your jaw. Let your tongue muscle pool in the base of your mouth. Become as soft as you can. Receive the breath. There's absolutely no effort required at this point in our practice for you to breathe. The universe will literally breathe you if you allow it, if you invite it. You can hold your breath if you want to, but there's no need to now. Let the breath flow naturally. And then notice that you're a human being, that you have a body and that you have a brain and that you have all kinds of sensory organs. Begin to wander around the field of your sensory awareness and just choose anything you want to focus on. A place that you feel warm, a place you feel cool, a place you feel heavy, a place you feel restless, a place that you feel relaxed. Focus anywhere you want on any sort of sensory input that you want. And just for fun, practice focusing 100% of your attention on that individual sensation. Other thoughts and other sensations will come and knock on your door, but do the best you can to focus your brain 100% on that sensation you've chosen this afternoon. And then let that sensation dissolve. Deliberately turn away from it. It no longer captures your imagination. And notice that there are thoughts that are present in your brain. And allow yourself to just kind of observe the flow of thoughts like electrical impulses across some computer screen somewhere. And then let's just pick this thought right here, whatever it is, sky is blue. I need a pedicure, whatever the thought is fine. And let's give 100% of our attention to that thought, not any other thoughts, not a whole story around that thought, but just that thought. And then letting that dissolve as well. And for another minute or two, continuing this sort of methodology where we just open up our field of awareness to whatever's happening to us as a human being in this moment and devote 100% attention to that for a few breaths. It can be anything. Your breath is always there for you. The feeling of the earth beneath your body is always there for you, or anything else you want, but practice being in the present moment. And then deliberately dissolve your awareness of that and move on to something different. Deliberately focusing on what you choose to focus on. And just do that one last time. Dissolve what you were thinking about and move to feeling and observing this last compelling part of your humanness for today. And then this last time, letting that dissolve. And once again, focusing on softening, releasing and allowing and surrendering. So there's really nothing to do at all. You're simply being exactly as you are in this moment, experiencing exactly this moment, open, aware, observing right now. And before we leave this practice, and you don't have to leave it yet, but before we leave this practice today, simply tune in to some of that questioning we were doing earlier. Now that you've spent the last hour really listening to your physical body and really observing its wisdom, do you feel like you're more in that balanced place between efforting, pushing the boulder up the hill, and receiving the support the universe is offering you? That's what yoga, I hope, offers you every time you practice, even moment to moment, breath to breath. I think athletes call it being in the zone. If you're ready to come to an upright position, please wiggle and jiggle gently, and I will meet you back into a seated place. And let's finish our formal practice this afternoon by sharing a nice, big, beautiful Om. As you chant Om with me in your own mind or out loud, think about the sound carrying you to that place of balance. Inhaling. Namaste. I'd really like to chat, so if you just give me a